obviously we have very, very different styles, and it's fun, right?
It is.
So we're going to kind of do this in I'm not going to be the only one talking, she's not going to, we're going to have a conversation between ourselves, and please, if you have questions when we're talking, feel free to ask us too. You know, this is going to be like just a conversation, not us talking at you. I tend to find those a little boring, so she doesn't have a choice. She's just along. What I wanted to say, I came in on Friday because I hadn't seen Kristin's work really up close, and I hadn't really studied it. I've seen it on Instagram a lot, but when you come in here, they're so big. Like, this is just so amazing. And when you do collage, it's often hard to make bigger pieces because, again, your source materials are often very small.
Yeah.
And one thing I noticed with Kristin's work is the background materials are really varied. So like on this one, is this it's an album sleeve, right?
It is an album sleeve, yes.
And
then we have my grandmother's vintage fabric that I applied to the canvas. So a little touch as meaningful. And same with the patterns and colors. It's all about finding something that means something or you connect with. So I have some of the old ribbons and just the aesthetic gold. Yeah.
Okay, so I was going to ask you, what era is this one? 60s?
60s, yeah.
I like that because she has different eras. So like her women are wearing different era clothes. Like I believe that was 80s.
Yeah, like the 1980s.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, I got that one. Okay, so when I came in and they looked, my eyes were drawn to these two pieces. I mean, this one is on the cover, for our show on the flyer. And I looked at them and I love that the curators put them together because they're both holding bouquets of flowers. And this one, and I'm sorry because this is your grandmother, I was like, okay, this woman probably killed somebody. Secretly, and she's like at the cemetery leaving, but she got away with it.
You're not wrong. So I named it Great Gardens. I named it Great Gardens because it does have a little bit of that mystery, the way that she looks with the gloves, a little eccentric,
her face,
and the face.
I was like,
she's classy, sophisticated, but there's something a little off.
But I just got a lot of money out of this deal.
Yes.
Then we go here, and she's so the opposite, like a very
bright,
carefree, sweet. I mean, this is me putting my thoughts on it. But I'm wondering, okay, I'm kind of jumping around here, but when looking at all of your female pieces as a whole, I would say most of them look like they are a little bit sassy, or they're going to get away with something, or they're, but this one is like very sweet and kind of more innocent, more carefree. So for you, what draws you to showcasing women that have a little bit more of like they're up to no good, or they could be up to no good? Like, what are your thoughts?
Growth is really important to me, having confidence. So either they're coming from a place of growth, or they find their power, their confidence, and they're showcasing it. And that's big. And I think that's what comes through, is just feeling really comfortable in your skin, and making it lovely.
Yeah, and colors.
Yeah, and she's definitely more carefree. And the other ones might have maybe more of a serious confidence, or more of a, really in themselves.
Yeah. That's so cool, because for me, like, I immediately go into they're doing something bad. They're fellas. So I love that instead.
To ask to blow them.
But I mean, I think what is interesting about that is when we create art, we have an idea in our head what our piece means, or the story that it's telling. But ultimately, it's up to the viewer to come up with their own interpretation of the work.
Yes.
So, this is my next question.
Okay.
So when people ask you about your pieces, or they're telling you what they think is happening in the story of the pieces, do you find it shocking sometimes or surprising, or do you usually immediately see what they're getting at?
Yeah, I can relate to how they're viewing it. And I think with art, it's always something that's personal to you that you're connecting with and how you're connecting to pieces of work. And I don't ever want my vision or what came from me to interfere with their relationship with how they're connecting to it.
Right.
So I think that's just as important. If you're curious, I can let you know,
Yeah.
but I think it's more important for me for you to connect in the way that you connect to it.
Okay, so this one is a process question. So when I create my art, I don't come at it with the story in mind. I'm definitely start moving things around until they make sense, whatever that sense is. So when I'm done, there's a story. Like I see it as a story, but I don't think of it ahead of time. So when you're planning out your pieces, do you have it planned out? Have you sketched it? You know what you're going to be doing, or what do you do?
So usually I start out with music and I put on a vibe.
Yeah.
And that kind of navigates the flow of what I'm doing. And then I will look for in nature structures, plants, colors, animals, all kinds of things, just patterns. And that will give me an idea of the layout that I want to do. But really listening to the music and the flow of it and the tone of it sets the personality of what's kind of going to happen with my colors and my textures and what I want to be using. So, if I'm listening to more retro, mid-century kind of fun stuff, or classical, you might see like a little bit more of a classical restraint in that one versus this one where I can maybe listen to something more like Cats and Klein, some lighter kind of stuff. Like a little more tropical for that one, 80s with the roller skater, music definitely sets the tone for my process.
So back to the backgrounds stuff. So it looks like your process is you probably lay down paper first, or do you mix? How do you do that?
It depends. I like texture, so I never want to start on a flat, just canvas. So it's either paper or tissue or newsprint or comic books. And I've kind of discovered plaster, just scraping it on to get that texture, and then layering in papers. Sometimes I will sand them off so you can see what's underneath it, and other times you might not even know what's under there. So I definitely, as I go, decide whether it's going to be visible or not visible. So there's always probably some hidden treasures beneath the paint and the layers until I decide what I want to show. So there's more of this, but I went ahead with some of the plaster and gessos and put a little paper on it. So where it's not a lot of patterns, I want texture. So it's one or the other, but I definitely like to have a pattern going consistently throughout.
So, which piece is it? Oh, it's this little square one right there where the woman has a lot of different ads and things coming out of her mouth. Did you choose, were you consciously choosing what pieces were going to go there, or was it, okay, color-wise it works, linear it works?
Yeah, so I started out with the watercolor of the woman's face, and then I went with textures, print, fonts within that era. And I am paying attention to how the colors and the graphics are playing as they're coming out, so it's not too heavy in one area, and it's nice and broken up, but it's a good piece. Yeah. They're all matchbook covers. Yeah.
So on my pieces we can, and we can get back to I realize it's coming. What I chose to do in this show is I have this collection of my great uncle's music sheets from like the early 1900s to the 1970s, a huge collection of them. And nobody needs that much stuff. But I felt guilty getting rid of it, so I had to figure out what am I going to do to honor that, but not feel wasteful and all of those things. So what I've done, for those who don't know me, my full-time job is I'm a paralegal, and so what I do when I get off work generally, Scott, my boyfriend, makes dinner all the time. He's amazing. And then I sit on the couch and work on art. And what I did for months is I'd sit down and I'd take these music sheets and just push paint around. I don't have any experience with paint. This was just for fun, and I did it for months. And the palette I came up with was this kind of the bluer shades, some of the oranges, the yellows, yeah. And I wanted to keep it muted, but they're also way more colorful than my usual work. And so this is very, very different for me. And also, I never make art this big. This is really the first time I've ever made stuff this size. So it was a huge stretch, but I was consistent in that all of the paper are old music sheets or old records or record album covers, sorry. And if you read that huge short story I wrote here, not realizing it was going to be on the wall and this long, for me it's a way to honor these people who I really didn't know. They were much older than me, and they were honestly kind of weird old people. And then once they passed away and I got all of their documents, all of their photographs, because my dad was a hoarder and they were hoarders, I learned so much about them that I found them much more fascinating as an adult looking back on their life than I did while they were alive, which I feel kind of terrible about that. But
where we connect to is like a lot of my things are my grandparents' items, papers, and collections. And it's the same thing. You can sit in a box, or you can use them in art, and they can live on.
Yeah, I mean, because as many of you may know, when you have parents that pass away, you are faced now with dealing with all of their things. And what do you do with them? Some people are okay with giving everything away, and that's fine. But then there are those things that are like, I'm a history buff, and you have things from 1850. I'm not getting rid of it, but what's going to happen? Nothing. It's. So we use it in our art. Let's use it in our circle back.
That is what that's one of the things we both do. We have love for old things, and it's meaningful. It's stuff that resonates with our past or something, a memory, if not from a person. And that's exactly what I do too.
Yeah.
It feels good to make it seen.
Well, and it's honestly, it's kind of like honoring your ancestors by sharing things that were important to them. But it doesn't have to hit anybody on the head, because you don't look at it and go, oh, that looks like Mel Mayo's music sheets from when he was teaching me clarinet in San Jose in 1950 or whatever. But it still kind of holds that vibe, I guess.
Yeah. At least to us.
Yeah. Okay, and I did want to say, if you have any questions while we're talking, 100% feel free to ask. This is a conversation, not a...
There's a question here, Joe.
Alright, so how much of the paintings are made out of the old stuff, right?
Out of the old stuff?
Yeah.
100%. All of it. So even like these little pieces, before I glue them down, if you turn them over, you're going to see music sheet from the 70s or 60s or whatever era. So every piece on this is from those music sheets. There's one piece over there that has some actual album, like an old album that's been cut out. So that would be the only thing that isn't a music sheet or a note or something like that. And what about you? Do you use modern stuff as well? It's all vintage.
It's all from old magazines, newspapers, music books, anything that I've had or collected from over the years, or at not my family vintage shops. I will use modern textures sometimes, like back cardboard for textures and things like that. But
not the key elements.
No, yeah, it really is all vintage stuff. Yeah. And I think, your patterns really, I love. It's a nice mid-century vibe. It's like you stay in the same era.
Hi.
So, do you run into any challenges when you're using vintage papers and,
Yeah, some of them are very brittle.
Well, let's, in case you can hear her talking, she asked if we ever run into any problems using vintage paper or vintage materials.
Yeah. There's yellowing. Sometimes they don't adhere very well because they've had whatever accumulated on them. The papers can fall apart.
They
very, very good. They do bleed.
The colors bleed.
Yeah. So you have to do finishing sprays. You have to be very delicate when you're applying them, or they can break apart. Some glues will saturate them. It's a long process, so you have to be careful.
Yeah, and if you don't use a really good varnish on top, they're going to yellow like this. So when you create a piece, the colors are nice and vibrant, and I've had this happen. The colors are nice and vibrant. I've used a spray varnish on it, thinking that would protect it. And even though they're not in direct sunlight, it's still bright enough it fades it. So for me, that's part of why I went this route. I chose to paint instead of just use vintage magazine images and stuff, because honestly, I'm tired of seeing this happen, and I want to play with new materials.
Yeah, so, and I will use, and I'm sure you do too, like the UV protected sprays, and when it comes to really old prints and papers, I'll do several coats of that before applying a varnish to do the best. But with anything that's saturated in color, we always recommend you don't put it in intense light anyways.
Yeah.
But you can get UV protected glass, to help a little bit, but
Yeah, it's tricky. Anybody else have any questions? She's like, don't look at me. Okay, so I have other questions for you. So we can go back over. Okay.
might read over.
We're really just trying to look at it. I'll get you stuff. So this lady,
Yes.
okay. 90s? 80s?
I like the 90s. And so a lot of these I'm inspired by model posing, like the runways and stuff like that, and they would take their shapes and their form and the stance that really draws the attention in.
Yeah.
For this one, I just thought it was fun to put all of the design in the background and keep her more simplistic, a little bit more striking of an appearance.
A little bit, simpler.
More modern.
What really drew me to this one, it's very 80s Nagel kind of look for the hat. But I love that you did like a graffiti art style, urban art behind it.
Yeah.
And I think, did you do it? Oh, on her hat.
Yeah. I like to bring in a little bit of the past into something that's modern, and I think that anything, it's a complementary to have modern with retro or older. And it keeps it more relevant, and it's not going to age that way. It's always going to have something that you can relate to. So I try to bounce between a little bit new or a sense of humor, or something like that to really connect to everybody that comes and looks at it in all age groups. So it's not one thing, then hopefully it's another.
Okay, I have to ask you, because other than that one, the spring puppy girl is the only innocent one in the group. Your goose, I love this goose. It's so everything else is you're human centered, you're human focused, and we've got this awesome goose. It's just
So the goose was inspired. My daughter loves geese. She loves geese, and so that has again my grandmother pulled the measuring tape from her socks. Got it. And it was just a fun, silly mix of geese and letters that I don't order. It's just a silly mix, but it was really an honor of my daughter. She loves geese.
I love it. You did a great job. It's so fantastic.
So I like
I was going to ask you, was it you just like the ad, or was like, this is all about toothpaste?
It's the time frame.
Right.
So it's the 1960s,
Yeah.
and everything about that is the 1960s. So the ads, I like a lot of the advertising, lettering, and the pop art colors that they use, and their advertisements, they are very pop art.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
so it just coincides with everything that I'm doing. But also, it's the charm of the era, and the innocence and the sweetness of kind of how they're dressed and what they're doing.
Oh, and your,
Yeah, the sprite waiting in line, when everyone's, pretty well put together for being in maybe a dorm or something.
I know, yeah. We're hanging out, drinking our 7-Up or whatever.
Yeah, and like the London, album covers, I like just the lettering again. It's just all trying to stay in that era of, to give you that feel. So it's a light coffee. It's sweeter times.
Was there anything you wanted to talk about that we haven't addressed already?
I just, with your works and mine, aside from them being, pieces that we're taking and putting into our works, I really like that the mid-century, the retro. I think we both love those things. In your pieces, I love that you have the same shapes and feels and textures that are similar to mine with the texturing and the layering. And I really feel almost like if you take a simple piece of what's behind my work, it's like yours are zoomed in pieces, So it's a nice balance between what we're doing and what you're painting on the pieces. I think it kind of helps that even more between what we're doing and add some layer and interest. I really like how you did that. Like, we were talking about if you're painting it, it's more what you're trying to do and the image that you're trying to do and the stories that you're trying to tell. Because it is hard to find retro vintage pieces that tell the story, and they're not everywhere. They're not. You have what you have, and so you have to make it work.
Yeah. So I think this might be the last topic I'm going to bring up. But again, any questions at all, they're all good. We're happy to answer them. So, like I said, I am a full-time paralegal, and you're so busy. How do you make it work? Because being an artist it's hard. It's hard. There's a lot of isolation to it, and there's a lot of sacrifice. And it doesn't seem like that's something that you might hear very often. But I can't tell you how many weekends I stayed at home instead of maybe going out and doing something fun, because I have such limited time to focus. And so, how do you make it happen? Other than not sleeping.
Not sleeping is a part of it.
Yeah.
It's really the only part of me. It's me. It's who I am. So I have to make time for that. And sometimes it is when everyone's gone to bed. My priority is family, our home, and then but I can't lose myself in that struggle. So it is hard. But growing up I was very ill, and I was in and out of hospitals, and art became a way that I processed. It was a way that I could connect and let things go and kind of relate to everything that I didn't have control over, and a way that I could create an atmosphere and an aesthetic that felt comfortable and good. And I think that stays true even when I'm very busy, very tired, that I can still express all of that outward. And sometimes above what I'm able to do, like with the bright colors and the experiences and the style, you can really live through your art. So that's
And I do think this is another thing that it's kind of odd that we have this thing in common. She was very ill and spent a lot of time when she was younger in hospitals, and I did as well. And I think when you're kind of trapped in a body that's not doing what you want it to do, you get very good at building your imagination, telling stories to yourself to keep yourself sane and to ground yourself a little bit. And I think I spent years not making art. I didn't think I could ever be an artist. I didn't start making art again until I was 30, and I just wanted a way to express myself, to tell stories, and that's kind of where I went, and I know I still look at it.
Yeah, I stopped for about 10 years as well, and I was working full time and didn't think I was going to pay anymore. And then it's started doing it. Yeah, I mean, it really does. It is a piece of your soul, and it is a piece of who you are, and it feels good to share that. And it's really the only thing that I put out there for, versus yourself. Because you're tired and you're doing a lot of things, and art is the one way you can really put yourself out there and connect with people. So it feels good. It's nice to have the opportunity.
So yeah, if there are no more questions,
Enjoy.
we're gonna call it done. Oh, and first of all, this guy, he cooks every night. If not for him, I would literally be starving artist because I could not make any of my own food.
That piece, that larger piece, was on the back of your table for 4 months.
Yeah.